So the hardest thing about pivot tables is kind of understanding what they are and why you would use them. Once you have that, they're actually pretty easy to work with. They're actually made to be that way. So I want to go through this slide deck that we created for you. Ideally, you should have gone through Google Sheets 101 and 201, or you have prior knowledge of Google Sheets and then some knowledge of formulas. But we'll cover the formulas here as well. So the objectives of this, just going to kind of summarize things and give you some examples and some practical ideas of pivot tables. So a pivot table is basically, if you have a large amount of data, it's a way to summarize that large amount of data. The nice thing, and one of my favorite things about pivot tables, is since they're easy to manipulate, you can make them over and over again. And my other favorite part is that they actually don't mess up your data. So you can manipulate your data, make it look like something else, but it never actually truly touches your data. So it's a kind of a safe place to work is the way that I look at it. Okay. Here's the basic structure of a pivot table. So rows, columns, values, and filters. Those are the main areas. And in Google Sheets, this is what it looks like. Your rows will go here, your columns will go here, your values will go here, and your filters are ways of keeping data out of the table. All right. I'm going to let you guys read through this, but basically columns and rows are the categories. Values, those are your unique numbers. Okay. Oh, one important piece on rows and columns. It's not helpful to have a large number of unique values. You actually want a very limited number of unique values in rows and in columns. And we'll go through that throughout the course. But as you're making tables, if you're looking at data saying what should be my rows, what should be my columns, you don't want things that are all unique because it takes a large table and keeps it large. You want a small number of categories so that you can take a large amount of data and make it smaller, make it easier to view. Values, those are your unique numbers or your unique words. Some formulas that have to go with values. These are all things that you can do to your values. Okay, you can add them up. You can count words. Okay, so that's if your data is words, you can count them. You can count the numbers and you can count unique. Okay, so those are kind of the most often used, but there's other ways you can use this as well. Obviously, there's a lot of statistics that goes on down here, so I'm not going to be getting into that because most uses tend to be some or the counting. Okay, and those were actually what we also went over in the formulas Google Sheets class. Filters, you want to keep stuff out of your data, or if there's something that's not needed or not helping, get rid of it. Okay, so here's a pivot table. So inside of Google Sheets, and we'll go over how to do this all. For right now, again, this is just a summary. And this is actually using data set 1 from your course. So when I made a pivot table, I made one, my rows, I made the make, my columns were the OS, and then my values, I actually chose the OS again. And because my OS was in words, not numbers, I did count A. It usually defaults to some, but I did count A. So when I did that, here's what my data came to. So what does this tell us? So again, we're going to go over how to make these things, but this is just in general. So Apple, this is everything that has to do with Apple. There's 149 total Apple devices, but then it categorizes them by operating system. So OS XXX, there's 125 of those. 10.3.9, there's 13 of those, and 10.4.11, there's 9 of those. Okay. Another interesting feature is if you double click on any of these numbers, it will actually pull up just that data for you, and it will do it in another sheet. So down at the bottom of your spreadsheet where you have those other tabs, it will actually create another tab with just those 9 pieces of data. Okay. Now, I did put here, yes, you can delete that sheet, because if you do that over and over again, you're going to make a lot of sheets. You can delete those sheets because, like I said, the pivot table uses your data, but it doesn't change your data. So you'll still have your data tab, but you'll still have your data set, but you'll also have a whole bunch of other sheets. So just a real quick review. I'm hoping this helps. Just kind of give you some, again, the most important thing I think you're going to find is this right here. Do not have a large number of unique values in whatever you choose for your row and your column. Okay, the rest, if your head's spinning, we'll still go through it, and yeah, hopefully you're going to stick with it. All right, see you next video.